And here we are again on STL Sports Central. All content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Randy Karraker, and there's Bernie Miklasz, as we have been going through numbers 0 through 99 all summer long. And guys, we are in the 70s, and I think Blues fans they've been upset with a lot of this list so far. I think if it was up to them, they would have found somebody 0 through 69, all represented by the Blues so far, if they had it their way. But we are in the 70s, a much more traditional hockey number, I think you'd see. You get some football players in there too. So Big Red, the Rams represented in there. And that's where we are today. We're stopping halfway between the in the 70s. And we're at 75, a player who was loved for his physicality with the Blues in Ryan Reaves, and a guy I think the two of you know quite well in DeMarco Farr.
Yeah, and I listen. DeMarco Farr. The thing about his career was, he came out of nowhere, and he was considered undersized because he was short. And that's when, coaches were obsessed with physical prowess, big guys and all this other thing. But DeMarco Farr was, in my experience of covering the NFL, and I did for a long time, he's one of the quickest defensive tackles I've ever seen. And those guys are really hard to find. That's why John Randall's in the Hall of Fame. That's why some others are in the Hall of Fame. Because when you have an incredibly quick inside tackle who can cause all kinds of problems for you, and you have to change your blocking schemes because he's so quick, he gets by the people assigned to block him, and he gives you that inside pass rush that is extremely hard to find even now at the defensive tackle position. And so in 1999, the one thing that's forgotten about the Greatest Show on Turf is that their defense was exceptional. I wish I had the numbers here because I wrote them down somewhere a little while ago. You look at all the takeaways, you look at all the sacks, you look at all of the defensive touchdowns they scored. And in the middle of all that, right up front, and again, no disrespect to Kevin Carter, who was a great player that year too, and the Rams had some really, really outstanding defensive players. But I would maintain that DeMarco Farr made it all go because they just couldn't block him inside. And when they had to commit extra men to try to blocking him, that freed up pass rush lanes for other guys, and the Rams feasted on that. So I did look this up because, just to kind of put a number on it. I mean, DeMarco Farr in 1999 had 8.5 sacks. He forced 4 fumbles. He had 11 tackles for losses. And he just was every single game a complete disruptor where the teams they just couldn't handle his quickness. And he even batted down like 4 or 5 passes, but he had to be indirectly responsible for a lot of those takeaways because of his pass rush, because he was incredible that year. It was one of those once in a career seasons because he tore up a knee after that, and he really never played again. He just never got over that injury. That was a very special year in St. Louis sports history, and he was one of the most special players on that team, even though, understandably, the offense got 75, 80, 85% of the attention. But DeMarco Farr was outstanding that year and a very influential player on a defense that actually ranked 6th in fewest points allowed in the league.
And Bernie, in addition to those years that he wore 75 here, 95 through 2000, as y'all know, I had a chance to work with him on the radio for 7 years. And the reason that I wanted him on the show is because of the way I saw him interact with the public as a player. And that's why I wanted him to be on a radio show with me. And I can tell you, being out in the community with DeMarco Farr for those 7 years, I have never been around an athlete that was nicer to or interacted better with the people in his community. And people still ask me, the Rams have been gone for 9 years, and people still come up and say, hey, how's DeMarco doing? And I text with him now and then. And he made a huge impact on our community. In addition to being a football player that helped the team win the Super Bowl, charitable, friendly, fun, funny, and he's a guy that everybody in St. Louis remembers.
Yeah, and I, on a personal note, like, he was always a go-to guy for us in the media because he was funny and he was smart and he was witty, and it wasn't forced. He just had a natural wit about him. And I remember the Rams. Remember the Detroit Lions had that big, huge quarterback, Scott Mitchell.
Scott Mitchell,
right? Massive human being. Okay, and the fact that he was a quarterback made it even more massive. So the Rams beat the hell out of the Lions that day, but they had a problem because Scott Mitchell was so big. They would, like, DeMarco and others would sort of like get on him, and he could shake him off a little bit. It was just like, it was almost like DeMarco Farr was like riding on his back trying to take him down because Scott Mitchell was so huge. So I asked DeMarco about that after the game, and I said, "Well, what was that like? This guy's so huge. He's bigger than any of your defensive linemen." And he said, "Man," he said, the guy is a giant water buffalo." And he said, metaphorically, we just kept sticking swords in him. And it's just like, you stick a sword in him and he keeps going, I said, "Give me another sword." I just stuck another sword in him. He keeps going. He said the guy was like a big water buffalo. A quarterback shouldn't be allowed to be that big. And we didn't know what to do with him. And that was like one of my favorite quotes of all time because it was so funny. And you look at the visual of them trying to bring this water buffalo down, and it was the descriptive appeal was outstanding, but it was also the description. There was something to it too, because he did look like a big giant water buffalo. Anyway, DeMarco had a kid for
you talk about that somebody that size. I mean, and Ryan Reaves, I think also. I'm sure at some point he might have been compared to a water buffalo. Yeah. You look at his career stats, 15 years in the NHL, 1,100 penalty minutes, 137 points. That's the true definition.
Right. There you go.
That man has one job on the ice, and it's not to score.
And the tough guys are always popular. Yeah. Twister and Chaser and Reed Lowe and the late Todd Ewan, those guys. John Wensink is still in town. The tough guy is always popular, and Reeves lived up to that billing as the popular tough guy. And I know Blues fans hated it when he got traded. I was
going to say, when he was traded away, he didn't provide points, goals, assists, but when they lost him, they lost a huge part of their identity when they lost him or when they traded him away.
Yeah, I always got a kick out of him. And you talk about a guy who did. You're assigned a job to do. Not everybody can be Sidney Crosby or whatever, but for the job that he was paid to do, he did it to perfection, just about. I mean, he really did, from the standpoint that he knew what his role was, and he loved the role, but he also had some ability. He could skate, he could move, he was mobile. He could bang in some goals. I mean, he was a really effective player. And an ideal fit for what the Blues needed over those few years. So a lot of respect for Ryan Reaves.
Yeah, but and by the way, let's just mention Bob Rowe, who wore number 75 for the old Big Red. He was. They didn't have great defenses, but I think the other guy that Don Coryell was talking about when he said only two of my defensive players could play for the Giants, and everybody was walking in saying, "Yeah, Worley and me." I think Bob Rowe was the one. I think Bob Rowe was the other one that could have played for the Giants.
Good man too. We all got to know him. Those of us who worked in sports radio, because he had a post-football career where he was really, really good in sales for media enterprises, but especially radio, and a really good guy. But Randy, you were telling me that he led the Cardinals in sacks how many years in a row?
Yeah, those 3 years that they were great, 10-4, 11-3, 10-4 in 74, 75, 76. He led the team in sacks each of those seasons.
That's really something. That's a heck of a number there.
And he was a tackle. He wasn't an end. Yeah. He wasn't an edge guy.
Blues fans, get after me. Let me know why Ryan Reaves deserves it over DeMarco Farr. I know that you will, and I'll hear about it wherever it is you comment, whether it's here in the YouTube comments, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever it is that you want your voice to be heard. Let me know why Ryan Reaves should be listed as our 75.
What are you doing here? Are you trying to stuff the ballot box?
I'm not. No. Trust the Blues fans do it on their own. Trust me,
okay.
Bernie. I don't
look,
need to.
I
don't need to nudge them anymore. Doing this list it has put me at the top of a public enemy list, I think, amongst Blues fans. So
I think Farr's the clear choice, but I will throw this in. I know that a lot of people hate the Rams because of them moving. DeMarco Farr didn't make the deal with the NFL owners and rig the process to allow the Rams to go to LA. So don't hold it against him. That's the only thing I've always said. Don't hate the players. They had nothing to do with this. So, and DeMarco Farr did move to LA to work, and that's okay. That's okay. That was his team. That's where he wanted to be, doing their games wherever they were playing. So don't hate on him because of that. He was a hell of a Ram, hell of a community ambassador, and the best defensive player they had in '99 on that great team.
He's Bernie Miklasz. He's Randy Karraker. I'm Joe Roderick. This is STL Sports Central. All content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours.